Today, we will be stepping back, way back, into a world that's just as mysterious as it is mind-blowing. For over 160 million years, enormous creatures roamed the Earth, living, thriving, and disappearing long before humans ever did. And the story of these prehistoric giants is far more complex and fascinating than the fossils in a museum case might suggest. From towering predators to gentle giants, these creatures spark both scientific curiosity and wild imagination. So how did they get so massive? What colors flashed across their scales and feathers? And of course, what truly brought these creatures' reign to an end? Buckle up and listen for any rumbling footsteps because today's episode is all about dinosaurs.
You are listening to Perplexity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Perplexity, a mystery podcast. As always, I am your host, Kadra. If you're new to the show, hello and welcome. I tell tales every single week that have perplexed me. So if you love a good mystery that leaves you wanting more, don't worry, you're in the right place. And if you end up enjoying today's episode, I would love if you continue to follow along. If you are a returning listener, hello, my friends, welcome back. So happy you're here. I am so excited because we are getting into dinosaurs today. Just a couple weeks ago, we did a whole episode about dragons, which was so much fun. So I thought this would pair nicely. And I'm so excited because I'm joined in this episode by Stephen Ray Morris. Now, if you haven't heard of Stephen Ray Morris, he has a podcast called See Jurassic Right, and he absolutely loves dinosaurs. He's actually written a book about them. He's a huge Jurassic Park fan, like myself. That's the entire reason I fell in love with dinosaurs. And him and I are friends. We became good friends this year at Midsummer Scream. You might know him because he produced My Favorite Murder. He also has had several other podcasts over the years. He has helped on Ologies, which is another really big, amazing show. And he ran the Purrcast for 8 years with one of his friends. So he also loves talking cats. But I thought he would be so good to have on for this dinosaurs episode because he knows a ton about dinosaurs and he's interviewed so many amazing people that work in the field. So I'm super excited to have him today. We will get into that in just a second, but I just want to remind everybody of a couple of things. If you have not done so yet, please continue to tell people about the show. Leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. That boosts me up the charts and helps me get new listeners. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe and drop a comment down below. And if you really want to support the show, if you want early and ad-free episodes and tons of bonus content, go check out the Perplexed Society. Starting at just $2 a month, that's patreon.com/Perplexity Mystery Podcast. I just released another round of creepy stories from the internet on there, and that was a crazy batch of stories. I am still doing my mini mysteries series, and I will have another episode of Texas Urban Legends coming out very soon. And I will also have some great stuff planned for Halloween, so you guys don't want to miss that. Go check out the Perplexed Society if that interests you. And my last announcement is I wanted to let everybody know that I have a new Halloween merch design. It's super cute. If you guys have ever seen, I don't know the brand, but it's like those funny comic book drawings of kids doing things they're not supposed to. I kind of took that idea, and it's kids that are like wearing Halloween costumes and dressed up as witches, and then it has my logo on it. So if you guys want to support the show and you want some cute merch, you can go check that out on Bonfire. The link will be down in the episode description. And shout out to Claire, one of my favorite people of all time. She's been an OG from day one. She is on the Perplexed Society, and she bought some merch like as soon as I dropped it. So thank you, Claire. And yeah, that link will be down below. I need to order myself some for sure. I'm just obsessed with this design. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into this episode with Stephen Ray Morris from See Jurassic Right. Welcome, Stephen. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you letting me come in on a very well-researched podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Yap with you about, but see, I'm gonna say that, and then because to me, I'm not a dinosaur expert. I just talk to a lot of dinosaur experts, and so I feel lucky that I've like just like sort of like off
Yeah.
their knowledge a little bit.
But you've been doing it for years and years, and I had to kind of cram all of this into a week. So I'm very excited to do this with you. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is like, what are your favorite dinosaurs?
Well, yeah, I'm very excited that you asked me this, and I feel like it's a big question, and it's one of those things where obviously, like, I don't know if you grew up a dinosaur kid, but there is this layer of my favorite dinosaur if you've seen all the Jurassic Park movies, or it's like your favorite dinosaur, just from loving dinosaurs as a kid. And then I have like Pitchfork. This is the chaperone of dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and for me personally, I would be hoping that my favorite dinosaur is the chaperone of dinosaurs because they really deserve to blow up. But Carnotaurus is one of my favorite dinosaurs, which if you've seen Disney's Dinosaur from 2000, that was like the big bad. He's got like the devil horns.
Ah, yes, yes.
And there was an episode of Prehistoric Planet because it has arms that are shorter than a T-Rex.
Ooh.
And so you have Sir David Attenborough being like, oh, and he's trying to win over the mate. And it's like struggling to like show off his tiny little arms and dance. And it was in the 5th Jurassic World movie, the 5th and the 6th one. Again, I think the fact that it has these like devil horns makes it really iconic looking. You can see a full skeleton at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as far as when you were telling me to be like, what are some, dinosaur facts or things about your favorite dinosaurs? The thing that I like about Carnotaurus is that it's literally just one skeleton right now. Like some dinosaurs, they have, hundreds of skeletons, basically. You can't, you're just stepping in them. But Carnotaurus cerastri is literally one specimen, but basically fully formed other than missing, I believe, like a bit of the leg and the tail. But pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I also like Shantungosaurus, which think about the like Parasaurolophus from all the Jurassic Park movies, the duck-billed dinosaurs, like, it's almost like they're treated like cattle, they're like the cows of the dinosaur world, not the sauropods, like, Littlefoot, long neck, Brachiosaurus, all that, but they're more of the duck-billed dinosaurs, the ones that hang out by the lake, They
have like the pointy head, right?
Yes, yeah. Parasaurolophus specifically has like a horn that goes backwards, but there's ones that, there's different models, different variants with different head crests, but they were famous because, in the 60s and 70s, it was really, there were these like huge finds where it was like, oh, dinosaurs can be nurturing. Like here are all these big egg clutches. And it's like, we have this picture, like a little baby duck-billed dinosaur and like the mama taking care of them and all the nests and the community and everything like that. But Shantungosaurus is really, to me, is another dinosaur that I think should be more iconic because it's the biggest duck-billed dinosaur. So like most duck-billed dinosaurs, and you even see them pretty accurately represented in the Jurassic Park movies, it's like, they're pretty big. They're like a bus or whatever sized or a little bit smaller than that. But Shantungosaurus was, I believe the fact is like it's about 8 to 10 feet taller than Sue, the T-Rex from the Field Museum. So it's this giant duck-billed dinosaur from China that, I don't know, I think we have this image of like herbivorous dinosaurs or herbivorous animals being like, helpless or whatever. But like when you think about a hippo or a rhino, like those are dangerous. Like a moose will like, mess you up. And so I love the Shantungosaurus because it's just a giant duck-billed dinosaur that's, again, bigger than a T-Rex. But then again, I got to save my girl for last. But Shunosaurus is like a Littlefoot, like Brachiosaurus, Apatosaurus, Brontosaurus from back in the day, but it's like little. It's more like 15 to like 30 feet long, and it has a spiked club tail. Oh, so wow. I really like that because it's like a gentle giant. It's like still big, but it's not it's not as big as Brachiosaurus or anything like that, but it has a clubbed tail, so it can like defend itself. Like that's kind of the theme of a lot of my favorite dinosaurs. I like the gentle giants, the ones that clearly like will defend themselves from predators, but you know, have something interesting or unique about them. And yeah, Shunnosaurus. My friend Andrea Ciafalo, who I did this Jurassic June series last year where we talked about our favorite dinosaurs I was telling you about, she is a wildlife illustrator, Strange Bird Art, and she drew this like beautiful portrait of the Shunnosaurus like looking off as its family is like, I was like, no, like I love them all.
Oh, yes, those illustrations were amazing.
Yeah. No, she's incredibly talented. And selfishly, I wanted to do that series with her so that she would do all these portraits of not only my favorite dinosaurs, but hers as well. So now when I'm like cornered at a bar or something, you know, it's the thing of like, these are my 3 favorite dinosaurs.
Right.
Like with a bullet now, for sure.
Gun to your head. Name your 3 favorite dinosaurs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wait, what's your favorite dinosaur?
So, okay, I've always loved Triceratops. That's been my favorite since I was a little kid because I just love the head shape and the horns. It reminds me of a rhinoceros, which is another animal that I just love. And it's like, to me, always come across as like this fierce herbivore that knows how to defend itself.
Yeah, totally.
But also like nurturing, or at least that's how it's portrayed in Jurassic Park, right? And it's like the one that you love, and like when it was injured and they're taking care of her, I was just like, oh my gosh, I love. So I've always loved Triceratops. I mean, Jurassic Park is like really what made me fall in love with dinosaurs, which we'll talk more about in this episode. Yeah. But so Spinosaurus, I really, really love. And kind of for the opposite reason that you said, it's just like this gigantic, terrifying creature. And it was another one that I hadn't heard of until I watched Jurassic Park. So for people who don't know, the Spinosaurus, it has a gigantic sail on its back. And it was in the water a lot, which reminded me a lot of like a shark. And it's just kind of looming and comes in, and it's terrifying. And doesn't it like fight a T-Rex
in Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, I think that's the one I just watched. So that's like in my head.
Yeah, and Spinosaurus also was an interesting dinosaur because there was like a race for a while in paleontology of like, what's the biggest predator, what's the biggest theropod, you know? And Spinosaurus was also interesting because a lot of its remains were destroyed in World War II from the British. And so it's kind of one of those like hot dinosaurs now because in the last 10 years, there's been a ton of new discoveries. Like it is truly like a meme at this point of how much did it spend in the water? Did it spend all the time, some of the time? How thick was that tail? You know, there was more recent studies of that its tail was more like a proper kind of fin, or not fin, but like a proper tail for spending more time in the water versus when you think of like a T-Rex tail or a Velociraptor tail, which is just like kind of, which is, you know, this is audio, but like
kind of rounded at the end.
Yeah.
Almost.
And like kind of like tapered to like a point.
Right.
Whereas newer interpretations, including the latest Jurassic World movie, where they show it more fully adapted for the water. And again, it's one of those things where we're talking about it now. There's new information, but also reinterpretations of that data. And so again, in the way that we're talking about it now is probably like the most accurate thing in that it's changing a lot. If you compare the Spinosaurus from JP3 to the ones in Jurassic World Rebirth, it's like they're totally different other than the sail that you were saying. And then the kind of crocodile-esque kind of face.
Yeah, it's cool to see how they change in the movies. I also put this like little fact in here about the Spinosaurus in case people just want to like visualize it more. So it's like a bigger T-Rex. So they were estimated to be about 16 feet tall, 39 feet long, and they would use their sail sometimes to scare enemies, kind of like how a peacock flashes its tail. Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to ask you is what got you into dinosaurs in the first place?
I mean, I think, and it's funny because I was telling you before, like when we're recording this, I'm doing this back to school series on See Jurassic Right, where I'm getting to interview scientists and science communicators about what they do, you know, whether it's, you know, actually doing discoveries in a lab or like helping, helping change minds of not only kids, but adults as well. Because I think science is under attack in this country, and we need to like really promote all the hard work and folks fighting that good fight as far as advocating for science and talking to these folks. It is this thing where, as far as science and dinosaurs and all those things go, we're taught growing up, but it's like, all right, doctor, fireman, accountant, lawyer, and then it's like paleontologist or marine biologist. Like those are the two science things that kind of get thrown into the mix. And so I don't know. I think dinosaurs are like a gateway to discovery, and like most people born in the 80s, dinosaurs, you're just handed a toy dinosaur at some point. And I think I lucked out because I was 6 when Jurassic Park came out. So even though I already loved dinosaurs, like I slept with my dinosaur encyclopedia under my pillow every night.
Oh my God.
And I still have it. It's kind of gross, actually. It's kind of gross,
no,
actually.
That's really cute.
Like as far as like actually kind of gross, because I just would sleep with it for years. But and so when Jurassic Park came out, it was like truly just like full activation, sleeper agent mode sort of thing going on. And I think starting this podcast, starting See Jurassic Right, I should say, really just obviously just made me kind of working on ologies and starting this podcast made me really like, oh, okay, this is like what I really love. And I feel very lucky that I get to like talk about dinosaurs like a couple days a week with people and everything. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And I always like talking to people about like what they're really passionate about. So that's awesome. There are a bunch of things that I was thinking about as I was researching, but I have come across this for years. There's this whole phenomenon of people who don't think that dinosaurs are real, which is crazy to me.
Well, okay. Are you coming across people that don't think they're real in that they're made up by people because they're not referenced in the Bible, which maybe some people say they are.
Right. Some people say they are.
Yeah. It's funny that I love that you brought this up because it's something that I've been wanting to work on for a long time, which is, I think the intersection between being taught religion as a kid and being taught about dinosaurs is a little bit of a cognitive dissonance. Mm-hmm. And I've interviewed so many people on See Jurassic Right who are like, have a little bit of religious trauma related to dinosaurs because of what you're saying, that like there's various ways that people have contested even the notion that dinosaurs are real for their own gains, whether it's like the devil put them in there to test us, or like, fossils in the ground, or actually, dinosaurs were real, but God was like, no, you're not getting on the boat. Like there's literally a children's book that songwriter Candy Carpenter told me about where it was, I think maybe the Noah's Ark folks, or like some more modern religious, mega church person who wrote a book of like a guide for parents, for religious parents to explain dinosaurs to kids in a way that didn't contradict the Bible.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because the way I grew up was religious, and I've talked about that on this podcast before, but my dad absolutely loved dinosaurs, and he's a big part. Yeah. And he's a big part of like why I love dinosaurs so much. I mean, we watched all the Jurassic Park movies together, and he has always believed they were real. He thinks dragons were real. And I always thought that was really, really cool. With that being said, I was raised to believe in creationism and a younger Earth, and my beliefs since then have changed.
Sure.
But when I was a kid...
That would be a great reveal. That would be a great reveal right now on the podcast.
Surprise! I still believe it. So, yeah, those things have changed. Lore drop. I actually have never said this on the podcast before, but I feel like this is a good time to do it because this is a dinosaurs episode. So another reason why I really loved dinosaurs is because my dad was the voice of Barney.
Oh, that's
yes.
Oh my God. Wait, you've never said that on this podcast before?
No, I've never talked about it. So I'm sure I'm going to get some messages and comments. But so basically, I'll briefly explain. My dad sang the songs for Barney the Dinosaur. He worked for Funimation for a really long time, still does some stuff for them, does voiceover. He wasn't the one who did the lines that had like this weird guru cult thing going on, all those weird allegations. That's not my dad. Just to clarify.
That's the person in the suit, correct?
So there was someone in the suit. There was someone who like did the lines, and then there was someone who sang the songs. And my dad sang the songs. So that's Duncan. He's the one who does my intros and outros for this podcast. So yes, but that was another big reason I was into dinosaurs. But yeah, it's interesting because like kind of going back to the religion thing, when I grew up, I was always taught, yeah, dinosaurs were here. Now I was taught like we walked amongst the dinosaurs.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So another differing, controversial point of view. But the other thing I was coming across a lot online is the conspiracy belief that like scientists are pushing this agenda and are putting these like fake dinosaur bones here for some reason, kind of like people who like are flat earthers or think we faked the moon landing, things like that. So it's kind of a twofold thing. People who don't believe they were real because of religion or just conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the one I've encountered the least as far as people I've talked to, because I think it is more of the childhood related thing. But I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, were your parents ever telling you not to watch or listen to anything based on religion? Because I feel like that was such a big part of it. And dinosaurs kind of slipped through in a way because it wasn't witchcraft or magic related.
Right. Yeah, I know I've mentioned that. When I did my Satanic Panic episode, there were certain things that I remembered I wasn't allowed to watch as a kid. I couldn't watch Harry Potter, for example, but I could watch Chronicles of Narnia because it had religious connections, even though it had a white witch. You know, there's just these little things. But yeah, so I wanted to find proof that they were real. And obviously, like the big proof we have is fossils. If we're looking into the past, if we're looking into the present, there's a huge belief amongst scientists that we still have dinosaurs here, which are birds.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is when we say the dinosaurs are extinct, we say the non-avian dinosaurs are extinct because a certain branch of dinosaurs evolved into birds and they're hanging out with us today. And it's kind of, I mean, it's like a meme at this point when people show interesting pictures of either birds from different angles or, you know, something like the secretary bird or a crow. And you look at the feet and you're like, that's literally just a velociraptor, or a heron or a storkbill or, you know, an emu even or whatever, like the hollow bones thing. And there's like a lot of, I mean, that was such a big part of and why Jurassic Park, I think, was so groundbreaking at the time, because it was taking theories and studies and findings that were like less than 20, 30 years old at that point. Even the idea that dinosaurs were warm-blooded like was like still relatively new. So putting that in a brand new movie is just like, it's funny because it hasn't really changed that much. It's only that we've just found more evidence from like our childhood, that we have found fossilized feathers and like proto feathers and things that evolved into feathers. And we've literally found a chunk of a dinosaur tail in amber. Like we've now found a lot more evidence to support what people have been saying, what scientists have been saying for a long time, paleontologists. But yeah, like when you think of a dinosaur that evolved into a bird, you think of a velociraptor or you know, even a T-Rex, even though those aren't like the literal things that evolved into birds, because birds existed before dinosaurs went extinct. Archaeopteryx is like considered the first bird, and Archaeopteryx existed during the time of basically during the Cretaceous period. So I believe.
Don't birds have like nearly identical bone structures to theropods also, right?
Yes. There's a few key differences. I mean, literally like, you know, a velociraptor, you've seen, you know, more modern interpretations with updated science is giving T-Rex feathers or feathery down or proto feathers or any of that kind of stuff. And velociraptors especially, there's a theropod called a pyroraptor that is basically just like a giant bird, essentially. Forgive me, paleontologists, for not getting the details 100% right, but there's just literally a way that the arms are oriented. You know, it wouldn't be like a velociraptor couldn't fly if it tried. It is more of a thing of like the way that the bones are oriented and the tail especially.
Gotcha.
That allowed for the earliest bird ancestors to achieve flight, whereas like a theropod could never fly. A T-Rex could never fly. I mean, especially couldn't fly because with those little arms. But
he wanted to.
He tried so hard.
Right.
But yeah, it's like the three claws on the foot. Like there's a lot of like, you can look at a theropod and be like, okay, I could see how that can become a bird, especially when you're looking at, like you said, the skeletons.
Yeah. And I didn't realize how many new specimens they're constantly finding, but the audiobook that I'm listening to right now, which I put in the show notes, it talked about how there's like a new species discovered on average every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but it makes sense because not only obviously there are digs still happening despite cuts to funding and all this kind of thing, but also there's so many people that love to collect rocks, and it's a matter of funding and time. And there are, I've gone behind the scenes. I've been very lucky to go behind the scenes at the Field Museum, at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, the Melbourne Museum in Australia, and in Melbourne, Australia. And basically it comes down to this, that there are so much stuff you don't even see on display, and it just takes time. I know my friend M does this volunteering thing at the Field Museum where it's like, all right, come catalog some bones today. And maybe there's a museum near you, or, if the listeners, like if that's something you want to do, like that's totally possible, where they literally just need people. They just need bodies in there, because paleontology, I should say, in the Western sense, has only really existed since the early 1800s, folks like Mary Anning, and then you get into the Bone Wars in America in the 1800s, where all these like egotistical men were like fighting over to be the, fighting to be like the top paleontologists, but then also were like,
the Bone Wars were cracking me up. I had not heard of it actually. And when I was like doing my research, I was like, this is hysterical. It was like two men that were
fragile egos
wanted to be on top, like America's Next Top Paleontologist or something. And they were literally like spying on each other, destroying each other's specimens, stealing things. But I mean, from that, we got all of these new dinosaur species.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. But it was one of those things where, obviously there was a lot of destruction to indigenous lands and all these things. And then also just like, they were working on like they've made a couple adaptations of it, but there was going to be one with Steve Carell and James Gandolfini where it was going to be like a comedy of like, this guy stealing this other person's wife, like that kind of level of like shenanigans going on. But they were like the first paleontologists, the first like Western paleontologists in America. But at the same time, Eons is a wonderful PBS show. I've talked to a few of the hosts on my podcast. Like Callie Moore is somebody who has like worked in cataloging and worked at museums, where her job at one point was to like lend out bones and lend out specimens. You just get the sense that there are so much going on behind the scenes. There's so many just boxes and drawers and rooms filled with bones that either have never been looked at when they were first collected like 100 years ago, or again, because science is constantly like, we're getting new data and we're like learning new things, that again, stuff like with Spinosaurus where, oh, maybe let's take a look at these old bones. And then like, oh, we've been looking at this all wrong. And, now that we have new ways of scanning stuff and, just we have new ways of analyzing and looking at things. So you're like, we're always finding new information from old findings, which is also kind of bananas to think about.
Right. Yeah. I saw that they have done like CAT scans on different parts of the dinosaurs, and then they use like different computer technologies to study how they moved and things like that. So it's really, really cool. And
how they sounded like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure, with technology just continuing to change, that there will be more and more crazy things coming out. I'm thinking of AI and wondering if they're doing anything like that with dinosaurs.
Probably. I think there could be said for something of, in that world, I think it's not about making up stuff, or it's just using that computational power to be able to catalog findings and stuff like that. I'm sure that there's use of being that in that area.
Totally. Okay, for people who aren't as familiar with dinosaurs, I'm going to kind of take you back to school, as we were talking about earlier. So there's two types of fossils. So when we're looking at all of the evidence to support that dinosaurs were here, we're thinking about trace fossils, which would show like a dinosaur has been there. Like the most common example would be footprints. And then there's also body fossils. So that's what I have always thought of is, you know, the bones, the teeth, things like that. And sometimes even a dinosaur carcass has been found, a mummified version, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah. No, and I mean, skin impressions have been found. Like at this point now, we've found skin impressions with color pigmentation. So it's like, you know, we're not just guessing what a dinosaur looks like, what color it is. Like we actually have pigmentation for some.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah. There was a picture I found online of the famous mummified, I'm probably going to say this wrong, Brachylophosaurus. They named him Leonardo. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Brachylophosaurus. Yes, I have seen this one.
It was found in 2000 in Montana.
If this is the one I'm thinking about, which I'm going to just quickly, it looks like, oh yes. Yeah, I have seen this one. This is kind of like this looks like a duck-billed dinosaur. Yeah, it is a hadrosaurid. So yeah, it's a duck-billed dinosaur.
So cool. And it's like incredibly intact. So things like that really give us insight, like you were saying with, you know, color, skin, muscle, they're all this information. It's also very rare to find, and I didn't know this, a large land animal as like a full fossil, which I mean, totally makes sense. But, you know, if you think about like a cow dying, for example, something's going to eat it or the bones get scattered. So it's like highly unlikely that you're going to get a full specimen. So the other thing to think about and what's fun with like this podcast, Perplexity, it's like the mystery of what else is out there because we have so many specimens of dinosaurs, but there's also so many that we don't have or we have one bone, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is just one of those facts that makes you like spiral out a little bit where you're like 99% of all life is like gone extinct, you know, like you're just like, oh no,
existential.
but I mean, yeah, the conditions for fossilization are so intense. I actually just on the Patreon for the pod, my friend Andrea, who I mentioned, Strange Bird Art, we've been going through paleontology news because again, it's like trying to just escape the gravity of Jurassic Park and see what else is out there. And like, the conditions for becoming a fossil are a lot. Like you have to die. First of all, step one, as the Field Museum says, die, like check. And then, like you said, if you're just out in a field, like scavengers and things will come along and rip you apart and eventually you'll just go away. So it's like the ideal conditions for becoming a fossil are like you die, you fall in a lake or a body of water. Ideally, you're not disturbed. Then you're covered up with sediment. And then over, you know, time, space, all that stuff, your bones are replaced with minerals and you become a fossil. But just the fact that all of those factors take, and yeah, the fossils that we are finding are such a small percentage of what actually existed is kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And to your point, when they fall in the ocean, I mean, that's why we have so many fossils that are from the ocean, corals, plankton, things like that. Yeah. That's where most of our fossils come from because it's the ideal place for these things to die. It's better preserved.
Yeah.
Okay, so my other big thing I was wondering is when were the dinosaurs here? And another debate is like, did we ever live amongst the dinosaurs? And that kind of gets existential too, because it goes into like, how do we define a human?
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, there was a study that I came across that we'll talk about that's like pretty recent. I'm curious if you're familiar with it, but it's estimated dinosaurs dominated Earth over 170 million years, and some were very, very small, just a few feet long, like the size of a house cat. Others were incredibly large, depending on like the vegetation and the environmental conditions. But the origin of dinosaurs remains shrouded in mystery.
You know, the Mesozoic era is the time when dinosaurs lived, and that was, if I can, you know, it's 245 to 66 million years ago. So it's just crazy to think that dinosaurs, again, like you were saying, like lived to, you know, 160 to 170 million years. Human beings have lasted for, I mean, what, like less than 100,000?
Right.
Something like that. Like we've barely been here. Dinosaurs didn't pay taxes. Like they didn't, you know, they survived long enough. You know, they were taken out like Selena too soon, you know, like two of my favorite things in the world, dinosaurs and Selena, both taken tragically from us. To your point, yeah, the Cretaceous is the closest period to us, 66 million years ago, or, you know, 265 million years ago. And that's where like Triceratops, T-Rex, all the classics, you know, most dinosaurs from Jurassic Park took place during the Cretaceous. And then you had all the age of the Titans, the sauropods. That was all during the Jurassic. And then the Triassic is when dinosaurs first evolved. They were fully dinosaurs by the Triassic. And the Triassic dinosaurs also don't get a lot of love because they all kind of look like a lot of like weird, like it's hard to describe Triassic dinosaurs. They look more like lizards, but you know, they obviously like the difference between a lizard and a dinosaur is its stance. Cause like lizards, I'm doing this again, this is an audio medium, but you know, you have lizard hipped or bird hipped, which is like, and we obviously stand with our, you know, our legs below our hips, whereas like lizards and stuff, they have their like legs outstretched, and dinosaurs stood more like us, you know, and more like birds. And yeah, so like the Triassic dinosaurs aren't really that glamorous. They all kind of look like weird, mushy, like here's the, like the plant eaters and the herbivores. Like if you just Google Triassic dinosaurs, they all just kind of look like
NPCs.
Vaguely, yeah, they just kind of look like vague reptile-y type things with big heads. And
yeah,
but I mean, mammals evolved back during the time, like back before dinosaurs as well, too, or early, like, again, I actually don't know this study or that I was like reading about from your notes where,
oh, okay.
Cause yeah, like mammals did exist alongside dinosaurs. So, it's interesting that people are like moving the goalpost back of like what counts as humans, you know, cause you think about it, like Tiktaalik is all of land's most common ancestor. We all evolved from Tiktaalik, which is like, if you get into a science algorithm, and it's a thing that I've been doing and telling people, anytime you go to a museum and you see Tiktaalik, which is like this weird amphibian looking creature, it's kind of, it almost looks like a salamander-ish kind of thing. And it was the first creature to walk on land. And anytime I go to a museum and you see one, I encourage people to like take a picture of you flipping it off, because it's like, we had it so good in the ocean. We could have just stayed there. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But you know, but obviously competition, and the ocean before we walked on land was a terrifying, insane place, you know, over 250, you know, 300 million, 500 million years ago, billion years ago. You know, I'm not as well versed in those Cambrian and Precambrian and all that stuff, but it's all just the weird looking arthropod and fishy things and all those weird guys. And so Tiktaalik crawls on land and it's like, all right, this looks pretty good. This is before trees, you know, this is before seeds, you know, they're just like weird, tall cycad, like fern looking things that just would release spores. And so,
wow.
And big, like lichen mats, like to me, if I went back in time, it'd be cool to like see what that world looks like. But
totally.
But yeah, like dinosaurs evolved from that when again, it's just, that's just what's so interesting about evolution, where it is just so much time. And so things are filling niches, and it's like, oh, wow, this thing survived because it got lucky, or because nobody was able to eat this thing. And so then by the Triassic, the dinosaurs are like, we got this one, you guys, let's take it from here.
Right. Yeah, I know. I really didn't think about that as I was going through each period of the dinosaurs, but it totally makes sense. It was like, okay, these dinosaurs were gigantic because there was all this lush plant life, because it had finally cooled down on the earth, and we chilled out on the volcanic activity a little bit, you know, and the dinosaurs before that weren't as big because they were in really harsh conditions. So that study. So, okay, this is from 2023. New studies emerged from the University of Bristol and the University of Fribourg in Switzerland. Researchers claimed they found proof of our human ancestors and how they briefly lived at the same time as the dinosaurs after compiling thousands of fossils of placental mammals. So this is where we kind of get into the controversy of like, how do you even define a human being? The researchers then identified patterns of origin and extinction, and based on this, they could estimate when the placental mammals evolved. They seemed to emerge during the Cretaceous period, which would mean they coexisted with the dinosaurs for a short period of time, which is like what you were talking about, that there were mammals who walked at the same time as the dinosaurs. So placental mammals, those are like bats, walruses, zebras, what we have now as an example. So, you know, some people argue that this means that there were humans when the dinosaurs were here.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I want to go learn more. My first instinct maybe just be because we've been talking about the religious stuff, but it's like, it feels like it's somebody there who wants to try and Flintstone it up, you know, but clearly they're just following this path of yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels more of a philosophical question more than anything, right? Like what makes us human? But I mean, you know, that has been a big question or the notion of that, because that's the other thing in regards to the religious, and it ties into this, where that's something that I've been looking at a lot recently, because even in science, there is, and you look at like the original Walking with Dinosaurs from 1999, and that was something I like rewatched for the podcast because there was a new one this year. And I was so struck by how much the idea that it was like preordained, or that it was like that the dinosaurs were doomed, that there was this like foreboding and foreshadowing, when like the reality is that an asteroid just the Chicxulub, the name of the crater in Mexico, that impact killed the dinosaurs. You know, we have evidence. There's the KT boundary, which is like this very specific boundary of this type of mineral and rock and everything that can only be found in this one asteroid. And so there's literally a boundary around the Earth, and dinosaurs do not go past that boundary. There is no dinosaur fossils after that boundary. And to me, the notion, this study to me just makes me think it's like trying to, again, come up with a reason for why we're here, why humans are here,
right,
rather than what to me is the real reason, which is like, again, mammals were already like starting to happen, you know, stop trying to make mammals happen. But earlier mammals were known as like synapsids. And so speaking of Spinosaurus, there was this other creature called a Dimetrodon back in the Triassic, which had these like lizard hipped, like squatted things and had the sail on its back. And like a lot of times I feel like dinosaur fans and Jurassic Park fans, like, you know, that's like an early mammal, but it's pre-mammal, it's a synapsid, but mammals were like coming up. And then this thing happened. And because whether it is, you know, the fact that the mammals that were around when the dinosaurs went extinct were small enough to hide away from an Earth covered in darkness for hundreds of years or thousands of years. Or Eons did a video about how, because there was so much death, fungi took over the Earth, and, you know, they had all these like dead bodies basically to consume. And it left room for fungal infections, and things were a lot harsher on things like reptiles and birds. It basically like cleared the room for mammals to like do their thing. And it's not a preordained or predestined thing. It's not it's not this idea that like all of life led up to humans being where we are today. It's just all these factors that led to where we are today.
Yeah, it's just what happened. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I was thinking earlier about how existential this gets, and just the concept of like, we can learn a lot from the dinosaurs. They were here a lot longer than we've been here.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's one of the debates. Sometimes people point to the fact that like small primates were here at the same time as dinosaurs. And, you know, some people say, well, a lot of people like, you know, we evolved from primates. So what defines a human? You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that was the other thing too, was that I interviewed this great paleontologist in Melbourne. Oh my God, I almost said it the American way. I've been saying it since I've been out to Australia a couple times, and just know a lot of people in Melbourne. It's like, I don't say it Melbourne anymore. That sounds so weird to me. It's Melbourne. Interviewing this great paleontologist, Dr. Thomas Rich, he named 2 dinosaurs after his kids. Like what a flex. Truly.
That is a flex.
Yeah, and he was inspired to become a paleontologist because a dinosaur book from when he was a kid showed, you know, at the very end of this book, all the, you know, the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. And then there's just like a little possum-y looking mammal that survived all of this. And I think there is something powerful in that notion that our earliest ancestors made it through more than half of life becoming extinct. But I mean, it doesn't mean that we were meant to. It just meant that like we did the work.
Right.
Kind of thing. I don't know. To me, that's more inspiring than it was like somebody decided that we were going to survive.
Yeah. Life found a way. And I think
there we go.
I don't think a lot of people realize it wasn't just this mass extinction and the dinosaurs were gone. Like there were multiple very significant points, like the Great Dying, for example, where dinosaurs kept coming back, you know, and that's cool. It's inspiring. We love a comeback.
Well, I mean, even, the Cretaceous, the extinction we've been talking about with the asteroid, like that wasn't even the biggest extinction on Earth. Like there's so many different scientists debate about how many extinctions there are. Some people say we're in an extinction event right now happening. But yeah, there was like, I think the one between, I can't remember now. It was either the one between before the Triassic to the Triassic or the one between the Triassic and I think it was that one, the Permian extinction, where almost all life went extinct. Like we were so close. Yeah. Like thinking about that too is very existential, where like there's at certain points where it's like we were almost toast. Like if we hadn't survived that, there wouldn't have even been any dinosaurs. And then
the Great Dying is the one where it was like 90% of life on Earth was just gone. It's wild. And then they came back. And lived for millions and millions and millions of more years, you know? So I want to talk about cool paleontology discoveries. Okay. So do you have any that come to mind?
Ooh, this discovery I wanted to briefly mention. I think it's very fun because I think, you know, if we're looking at dinosaur discoveries today, I think it's like UFOs. It's like, show me the body. You know what I mean?
Right. We need the proof.
Yeah, because obviously, like we said up top, there's different types of fossils, trace fossils. Another one that I feel like is really popular in museums is coprolites, which is fossilized shit, because you can tell a lot about something about what it ate, type of plants and animals that lived alongside of it, temperature. You know, you can do all sorts of things with fossilized shit. I'm not particularly interested in that, but there are people whose job it is to do that. But one discovery that I think is more recent, going back on your finding just even more details. Actually, I'm going to show you the picture because I think it's going to make you lose your mind.
Ooh, okay.
Because I thought the example that you were saying before of a mummified dinosaur, I thought you were thinking about this one.
Oh, okay.
It's called Boreopelta, and it is one of the most like best preserved dinosaur skin, armor, like the whole thing.
Whoa. Yeah.
So this dinosaur is called, I believe I said it correctly, Boreopelta.
It's like it's like a crocodile.
Because you love the Triceratops, correct?
Yes, I do.
So I feel like the other competitor to the Triceratops, like as far as the like other rhino-ish dinosaur, herbivorous dinosaur, is called the Ankylosaurus. So you see this bad boy like with the club tail and the armor and everything.
Yes.
So this discovery of Boreopelta, this nodosaur, which is a cousin of the Ankylosaurus. So if you like look at that Smithsonian photo, it's like you can see the head with the armor. You know, it's got like its whole head is covered for protection against bites, and then truly just like the full, almost like turtle shell, kind of like the full armored back of it was like found. That whole chunk was found. It's like, again, like the first time I saw this, I like gasped.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I'll be sure to put these in the Instagram and on the YouTube video too. So there will be some video, Stephen.
So this specimen is 110 million years old. It was found in Alberta, Canada. Again, as far as like, there's a reason why places like deserts and cold places are also good for finding fossils, because obviously when it comes to the desert, it's the idea that like stuff has been eroded away enough that you're like, okay, cool. We're getting to the good bits, that have through tectonic shifting and stuff over the years have either risen that stuff up. So that is now ancient North America. There was a huge inland sea before the two plates smashed together and made the Rockies. And so that's why we have like people go on digs in Montana or like those places. It's like, oh, we're finding tons of shells. Like you're saying, it's like because that was the floor of an ocean sea at one point.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this discovery to me just feels like it's one of those, like in my adult lifetime was a really cool discovery.
Yeah, so. I love that. Yeah, no, that's a really, really cool one. I wanted to kind of know where it all started too. So we were talking about the 1800s is really when dinosaur studies started taking off. But I mean, people have been encountering dinosaur bones worldwide for centuries. There's a lot of stories from Native Americans, other indigenous tribes across Central Asia, South America, all over, about these creatures and these stories they would share based on these different like fossil finds that we can verify. But it's 1677 when Robert Plot was credited with discovering the first dinosaur bone. And at the time, he thought it belonged to a giant human because we didn't know what dinosaurs were then.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think the thing that always stuck with me is people couldn't wrap their head around dinosaurs, or at least the Western world couldn't wrap their head around dinosaurs because it was like, why would God let one of its creatures go extinct?
Yeah. See, that makes sense because, like, I just did my dragons episode and they're so treasured and cherished in Eastern cultures. And so I could totally see that, how, like, that would be way more easy to accept. Not having the cognitive dissonance, you know, and that being an issue in Western culture for sure. Yeah. Well, William Buckland is the one who came along and identified this as a dinosaur fossil, and he was a professor at Oxford University in the 1800s. He started this campus museum. He was curating. He was traveling all over. And when he studied this bone, he, you know, recognized it wasn't a human. And he's looking at these other specimens, and there's teeth, his jaws and limbs, and in 1824, he concluded this was an extinct carnivorous lizard, and he named it Megalosaurus. So, fun fact, we had that before we had the word dinosaur.
Yeah. It's wild.
And Buckland's work led to additional research. In 1822, Mary Ann Mantle discovered fossilized bones while taking a walk in Sussex, and they looked similar to an iguana skeleton, so this was called Iguanodon. But in 1842, it was Sir Richard Owen that changed the name of this iguanodon to Dinosauria, meaning terrible lizard, and thus the word dinosaur was born.
Yeah, the going to the London Natural History Museum is pretty special because as far as Mary Ann Mantle and like thinking about like the way they describe it of like her stroll and just being like, oh, like, what's that? You know, like, and just that changing the world, you know, and like, and I think framing it in that way, I think for a lot of like science educators today, that's what's so cool about science is that it's something you can experience in your everyday life. It's not just a way in a lab somewhere. I mean, obviously lab is very important, but the idea that you could be walking down the street and find something like that there is all this, there's eons of history beneath our feet.
Right. That's how a lot of these discoveries happen. It's just people, normal civilians walking around and finding these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Richard Owen is the one who founded London's Natural History Museum, and it's still, like, it's world famous. It has these incredible collections of dinosaurs, and now I really want to go.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I've loved going to museums my whole life, but when I was on tour with Karen and Georgia in Australia and New Zealand, it was one of those things, you know, when you're traveling for work, you only have a couple hours during the day to go do something. And so for me, it was like, okay, you know, walk around the city. But then I was like, why don't I go to just every natural history museum in the cities I were in? So it's like going to Brisbane, going to Melbourne, going to Sydney. When we're in Australia, in Auckland, like going to their museum. Like it just was that thing of like, okay, I'm here to see some dinosaur bones, some ocean stuff, and like some gems. You know, I credit that experience with now being like any city I go to, I'm going to go to a natural history museum.
Love that. Okay, so let's get into relevance today. Books, films, museums. It's finally time. We can talk about Jurassic Park now, Stephen.
Wait, I forget because we were talking about it a little bit, but what was your first experience with Jurassic Park?
I watched them with my family. I remember the first one came out in 93, which is the year that I was born.
Okay.
So, but we would always watch them at home. Like my dad got like the box set and we would watch them. And I remember they scared the crap out of me the first time I watched them. And then I rewatched them recently, prepping for this episode, just to kind of refresh my memory. And they're still pretty scary, but they're so good. I haven't watched all the Jurassic World ones yet, so I need to do that. But yeah, I think it was just us watching them together, and that got me really into dinosaurs more. And then, we'd go to the Natural History Museum growing up and do the little, like, the fake dinosaur bone digs that you could do and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, that's so fun. Yeah. Well, how did they hold up for you? I'm curious.
I still love them. I think they're amazing. Yeah. I mean, the first one's my all-time favorite. It's just so classic, Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, they still hold up for me. What about you?
I have a Jurassic Park podcast, so I mean,
yeah.
it is one of those things where, again, like I was saying about my favorite dinosaurs, where it's like, what's the hyperfixation version of this and stuff? I mean, I really love all the Jurassic Park movies. I think because for me, as somebody who loves dinosaurs, it's just I think it's like people who love horror. It's like they love it's a monster. Oh, it's a metaphor for grief. It's about late stage capitalism. It's, to me, it's what's cool about dinosaurs is that, and, like listening to your dragons episode was like, the interesting thing about dinosaurs is that they occupy a space because they no longer are here, other than birds, obviously, that they occupy this weird space between fantasy and reality, where they do take on a mythic quality, but then you can also treat them. And I think that's been the main, some would say issue about all the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies, is that they aren't in some ways very consistent between movies about what they mean. I mean, I think the first Jurassic Park movie it's obviously, man versus nature, capitalism run amok. But also that they are these beautiful creatures and that dinosaurs lived, like in a exclamation point kind of way, that they were real, they were here. That's very beautiful. And then, in other movies play with like dinosaurs as monsters, or again, different metaphors, different things. And so for me, it's like, they've made 7 Jurassic Park movies. So I enjoy finding something new. I mean, there was the one from 2018, which was kind of more of a horror movie. Fallen Kingdom had because they were kind of made in a more modern era, it had this kind of like whole animal rights angle where it was just like taking dinosaurs, but then transposing it to like conservation and like, what should we do with them? Like now that they're here on Earth, like, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that makes me come back to the movies again and again, even if like, Chris Pratt is miscast and, they're just, they're just kind of dumb. But I do like, as a Jurassic Park fan, it's like, I want to get into the niche interests related to these movies. The latest one is basically like an homage to 90s video games like Tomb Raider and Resident Evil, but also has this kind of like nature aspect where you get to see a T-Rex go, big stretch. And I'm like, that's my cat, So yeah, I'm always finding ways to love them. So
that's so cool. I mean, other people love the movies too, obviously, right? Like they were incredibly, incredibly successful. And I mean, dinosaurs still have so much relevance today because people love them. And I feel like Jurassic Park, the whole franchise, has been a big part of that. And they're still releasing movies.
Wait, did you watch the Land Before Time movies?
Yes, I loved Land Before Time. Oh my God. And I loved Dinosaur, the movie. Yeah, absolutely. I looked this up too, because I was curious. Like I knew they were successful, but I was curious how much money Jurassic Park grossed. So, okay. And I know people who have not watched these movies, which is insane to me. You need to watch Jurassic Park. But so, Steven Spielberg directed the first 2. And then the third one was, is it Joe Johnston? Is that his name?
Joe Johnston, yeah.
Joe Johnston, sorry.
Yeah.
But Jurassic Park was a huge success. When the first movie came out, it grossed $1.1 billion from the box office. And I mean, this franchise, like I said, is like why I fell in love with dinosaurs. And then came the Jurassic World series. And so in total, the franchise has grossed nearly $7 billion globally at the box office.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big thing this year in 2025 was like, are people still interested in these movies? And I think clearly people are. I mean, people like the last 2 Jurassic World movies weren't as like critically well received. And so I think that's the thing of like, all right, like, what do we do now? But even not the best Jurassic Park sequel is still a ton of fun, and people still want to see dinosaurs. I mean,
yeah, totally. Any other like books, movies, shows that you really like think of today with dinosaurs?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I will always shout out Land Before Time 2.
Okay.
Because Land Before Time 2 introduces Chomper, which was it was in that era of like 90s teen heartthrob. So it's like, imagine Chomper was like the Jonathan Taylor Thomas of dinosaurs, but it also was like a very thoughtful movie. Like the original movie is very thoughtful, and it's a modern day Bambi for like our generations. But Land Before Time 2 is just kind of like gonzo and weird, where there's like these two British like Gallimimus type or like theropod type dinosaurs that like want to eat eggs, and there's a song about like eggs, like it's and there's a lot of puns. But then you also have this very like sweet lesson, because all the Land Before Time kids are herbivores, but Chomper is a T-Rex, and it's like, friends aren't food kind of thing. And it's like not shying away from the fact that like clearly this T-Rex will eat them one day. And also being like, oh, the like horrible sharp tooth from the first movie, like that type of dinosaur, like also has kids and a family. And I don't know. It was just like, I think it's actually such a underrated as far as like dinosaur media goes. Like Land Before Time is still obviously like Don Bluth, like peak, but Land Before Time 2 is severely underrated. So
totally.
And Prehistoric Planet, as far as like documentaries go, David Attenborough narrates it like a planet Earth. But what I like about it is they obviously were using a lot of modern discoveries, like Jon Favreau, his company doing the visual effects. I mean, there are scenes in Prehistoric Planet that look photoreal. Everyone says Jurassic Park, like it still holds up today, because I think it was just so well constructed and so well thought out, and it wasn't this fix it and post attitude. And I think Prehistoric Planet is similar, where it was so well thought out, and they, obviously are shooting it like a documentary. So it's like, oh, we step back in time and are just watching this stuff. And again, it also did this thing where it wasn't doom and gloom, because I think so much of dinosaur media, even Land Before Time, is like, this is the apocalypse. You know what I mean? Like this is the dystopian future for dinosaurs. Whereas Prehistoric Planet is like, no, like dinosaurs lived for over 100 million years, like just living their life, and I always shout out Prehistoric Planet because, like, I don't know, dinosaurs get to have fun too, I mean, obviously it's very scary, it's predator, prey, all that stuff, but then you have scenes of dinosaurs having fun, having sex, like right. Cute baby dinosaurs living their lives, learning how to walk, learning how to fly. Well, flying reptiles learning how to fly, but you get to see a marine reptile, a mosasaurus, go to their like Korean spa where these like other little fishes like clean their teeth and like pluck all the dead skin off them, getting a spa treatment. Like you really get to see a full picture of ancient life versus, again, like the original Walking with Dinosaurs or some other dinosaur media, which just treats like dinosaur, like Fantasia, the original dinosaur segment in Fantasia, where it's truly just like a nightmare. Yeah,
I love a good documentary, and I have not seen Prehistoric Planet, so
really okay. Yeah, that's the one to check out first. Yeah.
Okay, noted. Okay, so as we're wrapping up, we have to talk cryptids. And I'm really, really excited about this. And it's actually really funny timing, because I just released this episode about the Appalachias and a bunch of like legends and lore and like ghost encounters and stuff. But I got this comment on YouTube, and it was like this person basically, here, I have it. I have the quote here.
Cool.
Okay. I wonder why ghosts are most commonly human. I want to hear about ghost dinosaur encounters. And what are the chances? Because I was already planning on doing this episode. And so there is a pretty well-known legend in the Congo of the Mokel Mbembe.
Yep.
And some people believe it is a ghost or a spirit of a dinosaur. So this listener is getting what they asked for.
I know. Yeah, there is the notion of like a lost world, or, I mean, again, like different variations of how we think dinosaurs either still exist. You know, obviously there's people who believe in like hollow earth, you know, journey to the center of the earth style stuff. But because rooted in truth that we have found things that were formerly extinct to still be alive somewhere on the earth. You know, the coelacanth, like the ancient fish that was like thought to be extinct and then was found, you know, in the 20th century. And the Congo is just such an interesting example for this dinosaur, because like my favorite animal, the okapi, lives in the Congo. And it's just one of those things where it is such a, you know, unfortunately, there is a lot of human rights violations going on there now, which is really important to learn about. If you have time to learn about it, it's just that thing where it's so, there are these places still on Earth where, yeah, like humans have not touched, or the Western world hasn't touched, or the Asian, you know, the Asian world hasn't touched. And so I can't pronounce. How did you pronounce it?
Mokele
Mbembe?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this idea, because again, like the okapi, this, for listeners who don't know what it is, it's the only living cousin of the giraffe. So instead of, you know, when you think of a giraffe, you think of like the different rosettes and like the different patterns, and it's got the long neck and kind of the sloped back, and it's very tall, you know, in Africa and everything. But the okapi is the cool goth cousin of the giraffe. It's got like a chocolatey velvet coat, and then I'm holding up this cute little like clay thing that I bought off Etsy. But and then it's got the zebra stripes on the tail, because it's like it basically is like, leave me alone, I'm in the jungle. You're like, well, the giraffes live out on the plains, the savannas. The okapi lives in the jungles of the Congo, and that's where Mokele Mbembe's like existence, where, you know, the Western world didn't find the okapi until either the end of the 19th century or the 20th century. It's like, not only are dinosaur fossils being found that are new, like new species are found every day. Like,
right.
So
yeah.
It totally makes sense that, you know, I don't know what it could be, but maybe they're just seeing like, maybe they're even just seeing like an okapi in shadow, because it has very much a sauropod. I mean, it doesn't have the long tail, but it has like the sloped back, and it has a very long neck, and, you know, they're super tall. I mean, they're like two of me almost.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's always like one of the common theories with cryptids, is that it's a misidentification. But yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with this legend, basically, okay, so people have been reporting seeing a massive dinosaur similar to a sauropod for at least the last several hundred years. The creature has been compared to the Loch Ness Monster, which I just talked about in my dragons episode. And the legend was initially documented by French missionaries in the 18th century. Since then, there have been numerous expeditions hoping to uncover evidence of the creature. So in 1919 and 1920, the Smithsonian Institution made an expedition for the creature. The team and their guides would report finding large, unidentifiable tracks and even hearing mysterious roars. I could not find any pictures of this, but still interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on the money with, because I feel like the representations I've seen have been very Loch Ness Monster-y / Brontosaurus, Littlefoot, like Brachiosaurus kind of energy.
Right.
I was just trying to see really quickly if this Smithsonian mission was the same one that like found the okapi, because that would be nuts.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I don't think it was, but you know, it's around that same time. Like, obviously, white people are going out into the Congo, so they're like discovering they're finding all sorts of things, and it's like the first time that white people have seen it. It's just nuts.
Yeah. And they did a couple explorations. They did some more in the 70s and 80s. Herpetologist James H. Powell and biologist Roy P. Mackle would go out there with their little team, and the men would collect all these different eyewitness accounts as well. There was a report where somebody claimed they saw a Mokele Mbembe be killed near the lake in 1959, which would insinuate that there are multiple.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope, right? You would hope that it's, you know, not alone. Like, how would it have lived this long? I mean, obviously, there's like the Greenland shark that has lived for hundreds of years,
right?
But
and again, with like cryptids, that's always a question: is like, is there one, or are there a bunch of them?
Is there a Mr. Bigfoot? You know,
right? Yeah. And it's even possible this creature was spotted on camera. And I will put a video of this in the YouTube video, but Stephen, I'll send you the link in a second.
Yeah.
So in 1992, an expedition by a Japanese film crew filmed something swimming that was alleged to be the creature, but the quality was very poor, so you can't confirm what it is. To me, when I look at it, it looks like a long log or a tree branch, but a lot of people think that it is like an elephant swimming.
Wow, this looks like way older than 1982. It's so funny. Oh, okay.
Right. The zoom in made me laugh really hard.
Yeah. Zoom in and enhance. I mean, that looks like an elephant. That looks like an elephant swimming.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's funny to think that sometimes, we're all learning here, and it's just like, oh yeah, like lions and tigers swam, elephants swam, like animals can swim, dinosaurs swam, and that just looks like an elephant, just like going through this like lake or maybe this marshy land that maybe flooded from a rain, from some crazy rains or something. And so I mean it looks like a trunk, because when you think about any creature with a long neck, like a neck like that's, I mean, that if anything, you would say that's an ostrich neck, but there's no head,
Right. It's very, very skinny. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, there was also this whole village allegedly that claimed to have seen this creature. So, I mean, it's like two things could be true. This could be an elephant swimming, and maybe there's this species out here.
Yeah.
I do want to highlight this legend is also really popular, similar to what we were talking about kind of at the top of the show. It's very popular with young Earth creationists because they believe in a literal interpretation of the Bible, the Earth only being a few thousand years old. Yeah. So it kind of aligns with that theory more of like the dinosaurs lived amongst us and, they're still here, I
mean, I want that.
So do I, to be fair.
I found a couple years ago, I'll send it to you. I found one of like a childhood dinosaur book called If the Dinosaurs Came Back. And it's this very like, not Keith Haring, but in a way kind of from a similar era of, it's like, if the dinosaurs came back, they'd like take us to work. If the dinosaurs came back, they would make great pets. And it's all black and white except for the dinosaurs. And it's this very like colorful, very childlike illustrations of these dinosaurs. And it's like we're sitting in traffic with them. There's there's a dentist like brushing the teeth of one of the, like a T-Rex. And there's some, just kind of living, like trimming the hedges. And there's some firefighters that are riding them and like spraying a fire, clearing out a fire at a house. Like, yes, would that be the life I want to live? For sure. So have I done enough meth to see pterodactyls in Carolinas? No, but I want to. I want to believe. I'm full Henry Zebrowski. I know what I saw,
Yes. I guess with like the Mokele Mbembe, so going to like the ghost theory, and this comes up with a bunch of the cryptids I've covered. Yeah. There's this interesting theory that we have this like spiritual or maybe kind of psychic connection to our ancestors where we see these things that they saw. So it's like a spirit. Ooh. Or it's like time travel where it's like, if you believe in the Matrix and simulation theory, it's that concept of like all these things are happening at the same time. Time is a flat circle. And so we're seeing dinosaurs, and dinosaurs are still here in like a different dimension.
Do you think it's because those are interests that people already have? Because most of my ghost stories are, well, I wouldn't even know if they're people, but I don't think they're animals. Any of my ghost encounters, but like, because to me, I'm like, why am I not seeing ghost dinosaurs all the time? I feel like I'd be maybe I want it too much, Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's necessarily because you're interested in it, because I think there's so many stories of people who were like totally skeptical and then their mind changes. Right. Wow. So I think it's more of like this ability or this subconscious connection that people don't really realize they have. And then they experience something, or like they're sensitive, but I've always loved that theory. And so, yeah, there might be some ghost dinosaurs out there, everybody.
I mean, I like that a lot. I actually never heard of that. I like that in the sense because I think there is, it is almost impossibly hard to grasp the enormity of time, when thinking about eons of time, millions of years.
Yeah.
And so I like that in a way that notion is almost like trying to make it more manageable, like we are connected to our ancestors going all the way back, whether it's, half a century or hundreds of years or hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years. Like, can we remember when we first crawled onto land, quote unquote, like if it helps you grasp stuff and helps you come to terms with things more, I think that could be very helpful,
Totally. Yeah. Okay, you have to tell me about these pterodactyls.
Well, one of my favorite headlines in it, because every year I do a Halloween episode with my dear friend Luce Tomlin Brenner. She has a Halloween podcast called It's Always Halloween. It's wonderful. And so we'll always get together and do, I don't know, top 10 dinosaur deaths or hot cave babes in the Jurassic, or like in dinosaur media or whatever. Like, speaking of humans and dinosaurs together, like that is a notion that comes up all the time. Like hot cave babes and men and women like fighting dinosaurs, like that was like a pre-Jurassic Park form of dinosaur media. It was just watching humans and dinosaurs fight each other and it was all sexy. But we did do a Dinosaur Cryptids episode a few years ago. And so, yeah, this Fayetteville Observer, like the article that's still like the main article up, because, yeah, this was on January 12th of 2018, says, are there flying dinosaurs in North Carolina? Woman says she's seen them 3 times in Raleigh. Raleigh? That's how you say that, right? Raleigh?
Yeah, I think so.
So I mentioned it earlier, but as far as this cryptid goes, I mean, I don't know how people classify cryptids, like what the kind of taxonomy or the anatomy or any of that stuff goes. But when, even in the example they use in this Fayetteville Observer article, so dinosaurs didn't fly. They're called flying reptiles. And so that's when you think of like pterodactyl, Petrie from Land Before Time, anything where it's like got the, big wings, but they don't have feathers. It has like they would be almost like leathery reptile.
Like a bat.
Yeah, like a bat, but not mammals, obviously. But yeah, like more like a membrane. And they would also have kind of like some downy, I don't know if it was like fur, but just kind of like they would have, it wasn't always just leathery. But yeah, flying reptiles, essentially, they would like sail. So they would like be at the edge of a cliff or like on a tree, and they would like ride the like air currents and updrafts and things. And then they would like come down and grab fish. Like clearly like flying is a viable option for a lot of creatures. And so the person, this woman who was spotting them are, these are pterosaurs. These are flying reptiles. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing because they're not connected to birds at all. So the notion that that a flying reptile, because flying reptiles and marine reptiles, stuff like plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, ichthyosaurs, dinosaurs, along with flying reptiles and marine reptiles, all went extinct at the same time. And so I like the pterodactyls of Carolina because it also just sounds like a fun like classic rock album or something,
Yes.
But the notion that that flying reptiles survived is cool. They deserve some love too, as far as like, surviving the extinction. And so, when you imagine a pterosaur, a pterodactyl, they have like really elaborate head crests that either could have been used for, sexual display, fighting, all the classic reasons why people have all the classic reasons why life have horns. This woman, Cynthia, was describing essentially what is a pterosaur, but like hanging out on a bus stop. Yeah. I mean, that's basically it. That like, again, they're flying around this city of Raleigh. I've tried to, again, I looked up the story a few years ago and I feel like there hasn't been any news. So I don't know if they died, they moved, they migrated or something, or, but I don't know. It's fascinating. I feel like it's fun, right? Like as far as we were before podcasting, talking about the, oh my God, why did I forget the name? The Fresno
Nightcrawlers.
The Nightcrawlers. Yeah. Like, I think, there's so many cryptids out there. I think we need, like, let's mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool too, because I mean, it totally makes sense. But when I was researching, I was coming across quite a few groups where it's like, okay, I'm a paleontologist, but I also am a cryptozoologist, or I have tons and tons of interest in cryptozoology. And it totally makes sense, because it's that concept of like, we're discovering new species every week. And cryptids, the whole point is we don't know what that is, so it's a cryptid. So like we have these marrying fields where it's like paleontology is more of like this recognized science, you know, and then cryptozoology, some people think it's like bullshit, and it's like, no, it's actually like these things totally make sense to go together, you know? So yeah, I love cryptids, and I love that there are some dinosaur ones out there that we could talk about.
Yeah, and I think if anything, it's just the searching for this kind of thing inspires people to keep looking.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I just, again, Pterodactyls of Carolina sounds like a fun classic rock album.
No, definitely. Yeah, we got to put that on a shirt or something.
Yes,
hey, that could be your merch. That could be your merch.
Yes. Oh my God.
So that, everybody, is today's perplexing episode all about dinosaurs with Stephen Ray Morris. And I'm so happy you were here. This was so much fun.
No, it was so much fun hanging out at Midsummer. Obviously introduced by our friends Cassidy and Amanda, drinking the Kool-Aid.
Love.
Yeah, that was such a fun time. And yeah, thank you for wanting. I mean, we covered a lot. I think that was so much fun. Yeah. I think this is just like, it's almost like going from here. What are you interested in? Because there's so many cool things that, you know, we really like. What's the right word for it? We gave you the like I talk a lot about on See Jurassic, right, of like hyperfixation facts. One of my favorite ones I've been talking about on the podcast and other people have talked about, which is there is more time between a Stegosaurus and a T-Rex than a T-Rex to us. Like a T-Rex and a T-Rex and us, we are more closely in time than a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus.
Oh, wow.
Like that to me just makes your brain explode and you throw up a little bit, screaming, crying, throwing up, you know, because you're like, wow, that shows how long dinosaurs have existed, you know, and then also just think of how much time has passed between a T-Rex and us. Yeah. It's just, it's a good one to say at parties.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, I'm totally going to use the fact now of like, did you know a new dinosaur species is found once a week on average? Yeah. That's just crazy to me. But yeah, you have gotten to talk to like so many amazing experts, and you know, you've loved dinosaurs for so long. You have a podcast all about it. So for all of the dinosaur enthusiasts out there, and I know you work on a lot of other shows as well, but tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me at Steve Ray Morris on all the things. See Jurassic Right. Just, you know, type that into your favorite podcast app. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been the best. I like as of this recording, and I think you said this will be out in September, right?
Yeah, the very last week of September.
Perfect. So this is the perfect time. I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I am doing what I call the back to school series. I did it in 2020 because we were all at home. So it was like, okay, like let's hear from some paleontologists. Let's hear from, you know, science educators and stuff about what they do. It was just my excuse to want to chat with these cool people. I talked to a paleobotanist, just like Ellie Sattler. And this year, it's even bigger than before. It's like going to be like probably like 2.5 months. So by the time this comes out, a couple episodes will already be out. And yeah, I'm not only talking to paleontologists, I'm talking to disease ecologists, I'm talking to science educators, folks like Allie Ward from Ologies and the Aarons from This Podcast Will Kill You, as well as shark scientists, botanist, plant biologist. I talked to a shark scientist. I'm talking to a geneticist, like anybody who is either a scientist or is teaching people about science. And usually it's both. I think that's the one common thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of scientists who become science educators because I think it helps them explain their work not only to, you know, enthusiasts and children and enthusiasts of all ages, but also is very important because no matter what your work is, whether you're studying why we evolved teeth and where our teeth came from, it actually came from these tiny arthropods where dentine was actually their skin. because that sensitivity is what allowed them to evade predators. And eventually that came into our mouth, which is nuts, over hundreds of millions of years. That's a fun fact. These studies and things are really important because it teaches us about, ways we can survive and ways we can combat climate change. And so a lot of these people have to explain their work to get government grants. Like, that was the thing that I learned that was nuts, where if you're applying to grants, you have to be like, how is this going to be useful to the world?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that it didn't really quite hit me. But I think for anyone listening right now, it's like, when people are doing science, it's because they have been approved, they've been approved to do this science because they supposedly this work will help the world. So, we're not taught this to understand this,
Yeah.
And so there's a great organization called Stand Up for Science. I interviewed the founder, Colette Delawala, who is like, here's some action items to, call your senator, call your representatives, because, this stuff, mRNA vaccine, you know what I mean? Like studying dinosaurs, studying sharks, studying diseases, all this stuff goes into like literally helping us survive to the future. So it's important. So I was like, you know what, how can I take my little Jurassic podcast and find some way to talk about what I'm passionate about, but hear from people who are doing really cool shit, which I've been saying.
Yeah, the important work. That's so awesome. I love it. Yeah, everybody go check it out. I'll put Steven's links in the show notes. And thank you again. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This was so much fun.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to let me know. Drop a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe. Continue to follow along. If you haven't done so yet, leave a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can write a review. Wherever you can do that, that's really, really helpful. And if you really want to support the show further, you can check out patreon.com/Perplexity Mystery Podcast. Everybody, be sure to check out See Jurassic Right and the amazing projects that Stephen Ray Morris is doing. It was such an honor to have him on the show. And thank you guys for closing out September with me. It's spooky season. You guys have no idea. I have so many amazing things planned for you in October. I'm so freaking excited. Be sure to tune in next week because we have a huge case dropping and you do not want to miss it. You all are amazing. I hope you have a great week. Please stay safe, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.